Hagman, Halderman, Hall, Harkey, Hayashi, Hernandez, Hill, Huber, Weso, Huffman, Jeffries, Jones, Knight, Lara, Logue, Lowenthal, Ma, Mansour, Mendoza, Miller, Mitchell, Monning, Morrell, Nestande, Nilsson, Norby, Olson, Pan, Perea, V. Manuel Perez, Portantino, Silva, Skinner, Smythe, Solorio, Swanson, Torres, Valadeo, Wagner, Wykowski, Williams, Yamada, Mr. Speaker.
A quorum is present. We ask our guests and visitors in the rear of the chamber and in the gallery to please stand for the prayer. We ask Assembly Member Garrick to offer today's prayer.
Good morning. Please bow your heads. Father, thy gift is love, and in all deliverance we would be aware that peace and happiness comes not from what we have, but what we share. Help us in our laws to share the grace and thy blessings and thy gift of thy Spirit with one another. Amen.
We ask our guests and visitors to remain standing and join us for the flag salute. Please join Assemblymember Smythe as he leads us in the pledge. Mr. Smythe.
Members, if you would all please join me as we salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Reading of the previous day's journal.
Assembly Chamber, Sacramento, Wednesday, July 6, 2011. The Assembly met at 7 a.m. Honorable Bill Monning, Assembly Member 27, presiding. Chief Clerk E. Dawson Wilson at the desk. Reading clerk Timothy Moore. The reading. The roll was called. Ashaji and Alejo, Allen, Amiano, Bell, Block, Brownlee, Buchanan, Butler, Calderon,
Mr.
Campos.
Calderon moves and Ms. Conway seconds that the reading of the previous day's journal be dispensed with. Presentations of petitions, there are none. Introduction and reference of bills will be deferred. Reports of committees will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Messages from the governor, there are none. Messages from the Senate, there are none. Motions and resolutions, the absences for the day will be deemed read and printed in the journal. Mr. Calderon.
Yes, Madam Speaker and members, I request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 45.5 to allow Assembly members Garrick, Hill, Mitchell, Pan, and Olson to speak on adjourn in memory.
Without objection.
Also request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 63 to allow Mr. Knight to take up SCR 39 by Mr. Runner without reference to committee or file, and AR 63 for purposes of third reading today.
Without objection, clerk will note.
Pursuant to Assembly Rule 79, and at the request of the author, I request unanimous consent to withdraw AB 1414 from the National Resources Committee bill from engrossing and enrolling and to return it to the Senate for further action.
Without objection, clerk will note.
Also, at the request of the author, please, I move file item 98, AB 97, Mr. Fong, to the inactive file.
Without objection, clerk will note.
That's all for right now.
Mr. Calderon.
Also, Madam Speaker, pursuant to Assembly Rule 96 and 63, I request unanimous consent to withdraw SBs 91, 97, and 98 from the Budget Committee and to take them up without reference to file for purposes of second reading today.
Seeing and hearing no objection, the request is granted. The clerk will read SB 91, SB 97, SB 98.
Senate Bill 91, 97, and Senate Bill 98.
Clerk will read SB 91, SB 97, SB 98 for a second time. Okay. Mr. Calderon, your next motion?
The request of the author, Madam Speaker, please remove, strike that. All right, pursuant to Assembly Rule 97, I request to re-refer SBs 91, 97, 98 to the Budget Committee.
Seeing and hearing no objection, the request is granted. Business on the daily file, second reading, clerk will read.
Senate Bill 306 with Amendment 658 with Amendment 756 with Amendments 33, 913, 798, 360 with Amendments 596 with Amendments 310, 185 with Amendments 619 with Amendments 456 with Amendments 27 with Amendments 857 with Amendments 557 with Amendments 24, 39, 88, 105, 168, 182, 206, 207, 328, 341, 350, 420, 470, 493, 508,
Okay,
559, 609.
Members, we're going to defer the reading of the rest of the bills until after session because there's over 80 bills.
Really easy. I got it right there.
Without objection. All bills will be.
The bill that you need to worry about was already read, but instead of reading the other 70, so you're good. You're fine. Yeah.
Mr. Calderon?
Yes, Madam Speaker, at the request of the author, please remove file item 4, SB 33, from the consent
Without objection.
consent calendar.
Without objection, clerk will note. Okay, members, we're going to go to business on the daily file. Concurrence items. File item 83, AB 349. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 349 by Assemblymember Chesbro and others, an act relating to vehicles.
Mr. Chesbro.
Madam Speaker and members, AB 349 would continue the practice of allowing cattle tractor trailers with kingpin rear axle settings of 40 feet and overall lengths of 70 feet to continue to travel through Richardson's Grove on Highway 101 at the southern end of Humboldt County. Senate amendments decreased the sunset extension from 5 years to 3 years. The bill has received bipartisan support throughout the process and has no votes. I would respectfully ask for your aye vote on concurrence with Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the votes. Aye 61, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 84, ACR 15. Clerk will read.
Assembly concurrent resolution 15 by Assemblymember Conway relative to the Detective Monty L. Conley and Detective Joe R. Landon Memorial Highway.
Ms. Conway.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. 26 years ago, Tulare County Sheriff Detectives Connolly and Landine were on their way to investigate a drug case but were killed after a speeding driver ran a stop sign. Senate amendments were technical in nature and reduced the portion of the highway to 5 miles. ACR 15 is a fitting tribute for a family dedicated to public service. The sons of these detectives followed in their father's footsteps and are now Tulare County Sheriff's deputies. I respectfully request concurrence.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 60, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 85, ACR 41. Clerk will read.
Assembly concurrent resolution 41 by Assemblymember Mitchell relative to the CHP officer Philip Dennis Ortiz Memorial Highway.
Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Today I'm presenting ACR 41, which is on concurrence. This resolution received bipartisan support in both houses. ACR 41 would designate a portion of State Highway Route 405 in the County of Los Angeles as the CHP officer Philip Dennis Ortiz Memorial Highway. ACR 41 was amended to designate the segment of the 405 south of National Boulevard and north of Palms Overcrossing as the memorial. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 60, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 86, AB 417. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 417 by Assemblymember Bill Berryhill, an act relating to structural pest control.
Mr. Berryhill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, Assembly Bill 417 is back on the Assembly floor today for concurrence with amendments taken over in the Senate. AB 417 simply allows licensed structural pest control operators to make repairs to structures that have been damaged by termite infestation. The amendments taken in the Senate were technical and clarifying in nature, and they removed any opposition. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 64, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 87, passed temporarily. File item 88, AB 782. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 782 by Assemblymember Brownlee, an act relating to public employee benefits.
Ms. Brownlee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. AB 782 would allow CalPERS to recover reasonable administrative costs when audits on their employers take an excessive amount of time to complete. The Senate amendments clarify that an employer may not be assessed for delays on audits that are reasonably outside of their control. This measure has moved through the Assembly and Senate on consent and has received no votes. I ask for your concurrence in the clarifying amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 67, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 89, AB 966. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 966 by Assemblymember Yamada, an act relating to cemetery districts.
Ms. Yamada.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 966 is a district bill. As Chair of Aging and Long-Term Care, I'm now bringing forward an item that deals with the afterlife. AB 966 would allow up to 500 non-resident burials in a public cemetery in Davis to accommodate essentially what has become a de facto Jewish cemetery area. Current state law precludes non-residents from participating in group purchases. AB 966 would allow for that. There is state precedent. I respectfully ask for your concurrence in the clarifying technical amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 67, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 90, pass and retain. File item 91, AB 612. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 612 by Assemblymember Gordon, an act relating to parks and recreation.
Mr. Gordon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 612 would allow the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District an additional 10 years to repay promissory notes authorized under existing law. This change would not increase property taxes paid by property owners, but would provide the district with substantial additional funds to permanently protect and restore lands and provide opportunities for public recreation and environmental education. The Senate amendments would require the district to formally pledge the revenue that will repay the indebtedness. This will further reduce any risk associated with this debt. There is no opposition to this measure, and I respectfully request an aye vote on concurrence in the Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 67, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. And file item 92, AB 1066. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1066 by Assemblymember John A. Perez and others, an act relating to public health care and making appropriation therefore, declare an urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, AB 1066 makes technical changes to existing law which implements the California Bridge to Reform demonstration project. Last year, my bill, AB 342, was one of two bills signed into law to implement this federal demonstration project. Under the project, California will receive $10 billion in federal funds to fund health services during the transition to implementation of federal health care reform. AB 1066 makes technical changes to conform to federal requirements that were finalized last fall. This will ensure timely and accurate receipt of the federal dollars. AB 1066 also provides the necessary funding parameters for allocation of dollars to California public hospitals. The Senate amendments make further clarifying and technical changes. This bill has received unanimous bipartisan support in both houses, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 65, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. And file item 93, pass and retain. Okay, we're going to go to the third reading file. File item 101, SB 203. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 203 by Senator Correa, an act relating to county retirement.
Mr. Furutani.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and members. SB 203 reforms the process for filling vacancies on boards of retirement and boards of investment in counties operating retirement systems under the 37 Act. There is nothing in current law that requires boards of retirement to move expeditiously to fill vacancies in the elected positions on the board. Vacancies held open for long periods of time can affect the ability of a board to obtain a quorum for meetings and can also affect the proper representation of the various stakeholders of that retirement system. To reduce the cost of elections where the remaining term of a vacant position was of short duration, this bill will enable a board of retirement to cause concurrent elections to fill the vacancy and succeeding term. Additionally, this bill would provide the alternate retired member, where there is one, would fill the remaining term if a vacancy occurred in the position of a retired member of the board. It would also provide that a vacancy in an alternative retired member position would be filled by appointment rather than election. This bill has received bipartisan support. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 52, noes 9. Measure passes. File item 102, SB 154. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 154 by Senator Wolk, an act relating to domestic violence.
Ms. Yamada.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I'm presenting SB 154, which would remove the sunset date and require a follow-up report no later than July 1st, 2014 on how Solano County is addressing domestic violence. The fees that would be collected under marriage and vital records of $2 per record go to support domestic violence prevention and services. Several counties and cities in California are already authorized to collect fees for this purpose. We respectfully ask for your aye vote so that Solano County can continue these vital services, particularly in these challenging economic times.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 42, noes 25. Measure passes. File item 105 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 751 with amendments by Assemblymember Monning.
Mr. Monning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, today I rise to present technical clarifying amendments to Senate Bill 751 by Senators Hernandez and Gaines. The amendments correct drafting errors on amendments taken in Assembly Health Committee. Secondly, the amendments further clarify that the provisions of this bill apply to health plan generated data and not to existing government cost and quality information sources. With that, I'd ask that the amendments be adopted, that the bill be put out to print and placed back on file. Ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no objection, we will take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print and back on file. File item 106, SB 111. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 111 by Senator Yee and others, an act relating to civil rights.
Mr. Eng, passed temporarily. File items 107 through 113, pass and retain. File item 114 on the amendments, SB 582. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 582 with amendments by Assemblymember Hill.
Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. The proposed amendments to SB 582 change the lead author to Senator Yee and remove the previous co-author. I respectfully ask for an aye vote on the amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we will take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. File item 115, pass and retain. Okay, file items 115 through 133, pass and retain. Okay, we're going to take up SCR 39 without reference to file. Clerk will read.
Senate concurrent resolution 39 by Senator Runner relative to Scleroderma Awareness Month.
Mr. Knight.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. SCR 39 proclaims June as Scleroderma Awareness Month. Scleroderma is a chronic degenerative autoimmune disease that strikes women approximately 4 times more often than men. Scleroderma is characterized by a hardening of the body's connective tissue due to an overproduction of collagen. It's a painful, life-altering disease that is fatal in its most severe forms. There are an estimated 300,000 Americans affected by scleroderma. Unfortunately, there is no way to screen for the disease and no cure.
Seeing no further questions or debate, we could take a voice vote on this item. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The measure is adopted. I'm sorry, members. We're going to go back to one more file item 127, SB 563. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 563 by the Senate Committee on Transportation and Housing, an act relating to common interest developments.
Ms. Torres.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Like a local government, common interest developments, CIDs, have the power to assessments, expand common resources, and enforce the rules of behavior. It is important, therefore, that CID boards meetings to be open to members they represent and allowed for the participation of these members. Senate Bill 563 has 2 main provisions. First, it generally closes a loophole that allows common interest developments to hold general board meetings via email without the participation of members, while explicitly allowing for email meetings in emergency situations only. Second, the bill clarifies that an association, like a local government, must notify members of an executive session. This is so that members have an opportunity to object if the board intends to take up ineligible matters in executive sessions, and so that members who have an opinion on an item to be discussed in an executive session, such as litigation or a personal matter, may share that opinion with one or more of the board members. Senate Bill 563 is supported by consumer organizations as well as one of the industry groups representing associations and the Executive Council of Homeowners, ECHO. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 64, noes 3. Measure passes. And Mr. Knight requests immediate transmittal to the Senate for prior file item SCR 39. Okay, we're at the second day consent calendar. Does any member wish to remove an item from the second day consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, clerk will read.
Senate Bill 423 by Senator Wyland, an act relating to school facilities.
Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. On the consent calendar. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 72, no 0.
Senate Bill 668
Ayes 72, no 0.
and Senate Joint Resolution 1.
Ayes 72, no 0. Okay, we are. Mr. Fuhr, do you have an announcement?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do. Upon adjournment today, the Judiciary Committee will meet in room 4202. Thank you.
Okay, there are a couple of committee meetings upon adjournment of session. Environmental Safety and Toxics Material in room 444. Judiciary will be in the Rules Committee room. Public Safety in room 4202. We are going to go to adjourn in memories. The following members were approved. Okay, Mr. Fuhr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I erred. The Judiciary Committee meeting will be in the Rules Committee room upon adjournment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So adjourn in memories. The following members were approved for today: Mr. Garrick, Mr. Hill, Ms. Mitchell, Dr. Pan, Mr. Williams, and Ms. Olson. Mr. Garrick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise today to request the Assembly adjourn in the memory of Mrs. Lorelei Kinder of Fallbrook, California. Lorelei was born in Los Angeles, California in 1928. Hard to say that number. It was a while ago, and she was a close friend. And is a graduate of Mayfield High School in Pasadena. Following high school, she attended UCLA and earned her political science degree. Lorelei went on to serve as an advisor to Governor Ronald Reagan and several legislators in the 1970s, including State Senator John Harmer, and then served in the President-elect Ronald Reagan's transition team, where I met her in 1980. And we worked, both of us, for the President at that time, she over at the Department of Education. Many of us in this chamber had the honor of working with Lorelei. She was a very active Republican and did that for many years. In fact, Lorelei holds the distinction of being the first female to serve as the executive director of the California Republican Party in 1977, and again repeated her service in 1991. Aside from her political work, Lorelei was well known for her work as an avocado rancher in Fallbrook. She is survived by her husband Ron, her children Curtis and Elizabeth, and daughter-in-law Yami, and her granddaughter Mimi. A celebration of her life will be held this afternoon at 12:15 in Senator Dutton's office for those that would like to attend. Lorelei was a true friend, a mentor, a wife, a mother, grandmother, and a great American. I ask the Assembly to adjourn today in her memory, a very remarkable woman.
Thank you. Mr. Hill? Adjourn in memory.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The city of San Mateo's first female mayor, Jane Baker, died Friday at the age of 88. She was first elected to the city council in 1973 and served on it for 20 years. Jane was loved in the community and was elected 5 times. She was known to be very pro-neighborhood and pro-community and began her political career in a campaign to save open space on the Sugarloaf Mountain in San Mateo in the early 1970s. She was outspoken at a time when politics was dominated by men. Jane served as chair of the Metropolitan Transportation Commission and served as board president of the League of California Cities. She was also active with the League of Women Voters and several other groups. She was a remarkable woman who was not afraid to speak her mind. She met her husband, Bill Baker, at Purdue University in 1941, and 4 years later the couple married. And on the day Jane graduated from college, they were married for 66 years and reared 2 children and have 4 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. I had the privilege and the pleasure to work with Jane, and it was truly an honor. She was a remarkable woman and a great spirit, so she'll be missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise today to celebrate the life of a great Angelino, George Henry Beaubien. Mr. Beaubien was born in Hempstead, New York in 1937. He was the only child of George Beaubien Sr. and Essie Mason. His father was the first black deputy district attorney in Nassau County, and his mother Essie was a domestic worker for the family of President Woodrow Wilson. Mr. Beaubien and his mother moved to the Watts area of Los Angeles in 1948, where he attended local schools and ultimately attended Long Beach College, where he majored in business administration and became a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. Mr. Beaubien became an employee of Golden State Mutual Life Insurance, a historical organization in South Los Angeles, where he was a general agent for business and personal insurance at the age of 23, making him the company's youngest staff manager. From there, he was employed at IBM in sales. Mr. Beaubien met and married Lois Lowe in 1959, a long-term Los Angeles educator, and they remained in a loving partnership until his passing. George and Lois had 2 children, George III and Jackie. Mr. Beaubien was very active in community and political affairs. He was a member of New Frontier Democratic Club. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Beaubien was appointed to the 63rd Assembly District Steering Committee by then Assemblyman Julian Dixon. In 1971, he joined another historic organization in Los Angeles, the Brotherhood Crusade, and was elected chairman of its board of directors. In 1973, he was appointed to the Board of Fire Commissioners for the City of Los Angeles by then Mayor Tom Bradley. George worked until his passing with A&S Resources Incorporated, specializing in computer sales. Mr. Beaubien is survived by his wife Lois, his daughter Jackie, his son-in-law Derek Majors, and grandchildren Britt, Leah, Alexis, and great-grandchildren, along with numerous relatives and friends. Mr. Beaubien will always be remembered as a community and civic leader, a loving husband, devoted father, and a grandfather, and a generous friend. He'll be missed by all who knew him.
Thank you, Dr. Pam.
Yes, Madam Speaker, members, I rise today to adjourn in memory of United States Marine Corporal Gurpreet Singh. Corporal Singh passed away from combat wounds while serving his second tour of duty in Afghanistan on June 22nd. Corporal Singh migrated from India to this country at the age of 11 and joined the Marines at the age of 17. He embodied the strength of character and courage that our servicemen and women demonstrate every day on the front lines. He was at the end of his 4-year service, but extended his time in Afghanistan to cover for a fellow Marine who wanted to take a leave of absence. I spoke with his family, and they expressed it was important for him to serve in Afghanistan so he could protect both his country and the innocent Afghan people. So as we spent last weekend celebrating our country's independence on the 4th of July, we must also celebrate the life of Corporal Singh and the life stories of so many of our community's best and brightest who have given the ultimate sacrifice in the name of service to our nation. For this, I ask that we adjourn in memory of Corporal Gurpreet Singh, and I also wish to ask that my colleague, Assemblymember Beth Gaines, say a few words about this great American. Thank you.
Ms. Gaines.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Corporal Singh attended Oakmont High School in my district and was well liked by his fellow members, his fellow students. He'll be greatly missed, but strongly remembered for his bravery and dedication to our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Yesterday, Dr. Clyde Woods passed away in Santa Barbara, California, but his legacy will live on in the many lives that he touched. Dr. Woods was a distinguished professor of black studies at UC Santa Barbara. He earned his Ph.D. in urban and regional planning from UCLA and taught at Pennsylvania State University and the University of Maryland prior to teaching at UCSB. His research focuses on the regional organization of poverty, power, race, and culture in the United States. Professor Woods was a dedicated mentor and teacher of many, many undergraduates on our campus. We continue to be inspired by his writings and reminded of what he taught us, that honoring the community in our work is the ethical demand of great scholarship. He instilled a great ethic in those graduate students and undergrads, and it is reflected in their desire to link academic research to the daunting issues still facing African American people in the state of California. Thank you.
And Ms. Olson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I rise to celebrate the life of and adjourn in memory of one of our distinguished veterans, George Eldridge, who passed away on June 29th in Jamestown. I had the pleasure of meeting George in March. He was the organizer of our Veterans Memorial Traveling Wall in Sonora and literally brought hundreds and hundreds of people there on that day to see the wall and celebrate our Vietnam vets. He emceed the event as well. George enlisted in the U.S. Navy in June 1961 and served in Vietnam as a yeoman for the first 4 years and was granted a request to transfer to public affairs. George's time in Vietnam was spent publishing the White Elephant News, writing stories and taking photographs. When George re-enlisted in the Navy, he requested script writer's military occupation specialty and went to the University of Southern California to study cinematography. Upon graduation, George wrote, produced, and directed motion pictures. Upon completion of 20 years of service, George retired from the Navy. He moved to Jamestown in 1991, where he started his own ad agency and became an integral part of the Vietnam Veterans of America Public Affairs Unit. George dedicated much of his free time to the Disabled American Veterans Organization and will be fondly remembered for all his military work and service to his fellow soldiers and community members. He is mourned by his wife, Cynthia, and also his daughter. Thank you for adjourning in memory of George Eldridge today.
Okay, thank you, members. Please bring the names to the desk to be printed in the journal. The session schedule is as follows: Friday, July 8th. No check-in session, no floor session. Monday, July 11th, floor session at 12 noon. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions shall be continued. Okay, without objection, we're going to do second reading upon adjournment. So I'm ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Gatto moves. Ms. Olson seconds that this House stands adjourned until Monday, July 11th at 12 noon. Quorum call is lifted. Okay, again, committee meetings upon adjournment. Environmental Safety and Toxic Materials, room 444. Judiciary, in the Rules Committee room, and Public Safety in room 4202. Okay, clerk will read the second reading file.
Senate Bill 702, 704, 888, 910, 917, 920, 938, 112, 133, 177, 224, 226, 238, 264, 285, 290, 305, 327, 339, 349, 384, 390, 406, 425, 428, 593, 608, 627, 636, 720, 723, 724, 741, 796, 801, 805, 824, 909, 922, 940, 28 with amendments, 427 with amendments, 739 with amendments, 107 with amendments, 274 with amendments, 565 with amendments, 885 with amendments, 732, 8, and Senate Bill 332.
All bills will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Put that one down. Right.